Queen Alara Voss extended her scepter-tipped claw, the crown bond pulsing with ritual light as it sealed the Council's decree. "The Homeric Dominion yields to the treaty's clause," she intoned, her voice a silken thunder rolling through the obsidian chamber. "A human technical liaison shall be quartered within the palace walls, a concession for peace, no more." The High Counselors shifted on their perches, iridescent scales flickering in muted dissent. Consul Reth's crest flared briefly crimson, his multifaceted eyes narrowing, but he bowed with mechanical precision. The vote had been unanimous under her gaze, though the undercurrents seethed. Ancient pacts with the fringe alliances demanded this indignity, a soft-skinned alien from the outer relays, embedded in her sanctum to oversee systems integration. Stability demanded it, her line's continuity forbade refusal. "Summon Jonah Park from Relay Post Epsilon." Ilara commanded her seneschal, a lithe attendant whose scales gleamed protocol blue.
"He arrives within the cycle."
Hours later, as the palace's central interlock groaned in faltering harmony, its crystalline conduits dimming, threatening cascade failure across the inner wards, Park was escorted into the maintenance nexus. Ilara observed from the elevated dais, her throne's wards granting her a flawless holographic feed. The human moved with unhurried purpose, his plain jumpsuit stark against the vaulted gleam of Himerium lattices. No fanfare, no deference beyond a curt nod to the guards. Primitive, she noted. Yet the Council's files marked him competent enough for frontier repairs. The interlock's primary node stuttered, its biolume threads fraying under overload. Himeric technicians clustered below, their claws dancing in rote sequences across diagnostic slabs, voices murmuring litanies of calibration. One cycle of failure already, 2 would breach wards, exposing the royal vaults. Park knelt without invitation, unpacking a compact scanner from his satchel. His fingers, blunt, furless instruments, probed the node's access vents, eyes flicking between readouts and the flickering conduits. He muttered to himself, a low human cant the translators rendered as fragmented code queries. Then, with a multitasked grace that bypassed their slab interfaces entirely, he jury-rigged a bypass, splicing a spare fiber from his kit into the lattice, rerouting power through an auxiliary vein while simultaneously querying the core log via a jury-built uplink to his wrist device. The interlock hummed back to life in seconds, conduits blazing steady azure. The Homeric text froze, crests dimming in synchronized shock. Alara's crown bond thrummed, analyzing the feed. Pragmatic, not masterful. The human had spotted the overload pattern, frayed threads from micro-vibrations in the palace's gravitic stabilizers, a linkage no rote diagnostic caught without full decisibly. He adapted on the fly, blending their lattice logic with some crude field improvisation. Efficient, yes. Honor-worthy? No. Still, it recalibrated her risk assessment. Expulsion now would invite counselor grumbling, and the treaty's eyes watched closely. "Report," she projected her voice into the nexus, formal tones masking the flicker of curiosity. Park straightened, wiping residue from his hands on his thigh. "Interlock stabilized, Your Majesty." Vibration harmonics from the stabilizer array were echoing into the biolume feeds, caused a resonance cascade. I isolated it with a temporary shunt and flagged the log for permanent recalibration. "Should hold through 3 cycles." The lead tech, crest still subdued, inclined his head. He bypassed the sanctity locks without invocation. "Pragmatism serves the Dominion." Ilara replied coolly. Internally, she logged the method. Humans multitasked intuitively, weaving physical and digital threads where Homeric sequenced them linearly. A tool, not a threat, yet protocol tugged. Foreign flesh in the nexus risked purity taint. She descended the dais in a swirl of robes, her presence parting the text like grav waves. Up close, Park's scent was neutral, earthy, lacking the acrid tang of lesser species. His gaze met hers steadily, respectful but unbowed. "Limited access to the central maintenance wing is granted," she decreed, scepter gesturing the ward keys into his device. "Fulfill the treaty, deviate, and you depart in stasis." A faint human smile creased his face, not mockery, but acknowledgement. "Understood. I'll need schematics on the stabilizer array to prevent recurrence." The concession was minor, a calculated breach in the outer protocols. Trust? No. Pragmatism, again. Her crown bond whispered data streams. Park's frontier logs showed similar feats, repairs under fire on contested relays, humble origins, no boasts. She turned away, scales settling, but noted how the techs lingered, exchanging biolume pulses of query. By the next assembly, Consul Reth struck. The chamber thrummed with factional tension as he unfurled a purity statute scroll, its edges glowing with ancestral writ. "Sovereign," he intoned, crest rigid obsidian, the human tread's inner courts unpurified. Statute 7 Void decrees expulsion of unbonded flesh from Nexus wards. The treaty binds peripherals, not our heart. Counselors murmured assent. Prest's pulsing amber caution. Wreath's gambit was sharp. Invoke the theocratic codes to fracture her concession, rally conservatives against this brittle peace. Her line's stability hung on such balances. Pushed too far, and factions splintered. Alara rose, crown bond flaring sovereign gold, silencing the chamber.
The challenge is noted, Consul.
Yet Treaty Clause 9 supersedes peripheral statutes during fulfillment. The human remains provisionally. Under my ward. Reth's eyes whirled tighter. Purity is preserved by my bond, she cut in, voice cracking the air like fracturing crystal. His labor stabilizes what your delays endangered. Override granted. Debate ends. The council bowed, but Reth's crest lingered crimson, a promise of deeper maneuvers. Alara felt the propriety strain, formal distance fracturing under necessity. Park, summoned to affirm, stood at the chamber's edge, device already interfacing with wing feeds. No triumph in his posture, just quiet focus as he cross-referenced stabilizer data with the interlock logs, fingers flying in that eerie multitask weave. She approached him post-assembly. Attendance dismissed. Your repair holds. Explain the vibration link, our slabs missed it. Park glanced up, humble deference in his tone. Humans, we deal with noisy environments a lot. Pattern sticks out when you listen across systems. Stabilizers hum at a harmonic that amplifies in the biolume lattice. Easy fix once you see it. No arrogance, just fact. Her crown bond cross-verified. Hemerics attuned to steady-state flows, blind to chaotic echoes without ritual prep.
He bridged it effortlessly.
A concession, she said, testing. You work without complaint, though quarters chafe.
Part of the job, ma'am. Seen worse than palace vaults.
A pause, then. Your techs are precise. I learned the lattice bypass from watching them. Mutual, then. She nodded, scales warming fractionally. Fulfill it well, Jonah Park. The Dominion watches. As he returned to the wing, techs now clustering with cautious queries, Alara retreated to her sanctum. Risk recalibrated higher, Reth's challenge exposed fractures, but the human steadiness mended others. Duty bound her to this alliance, politics to proximity. Yet in his unassuming competence, she glimpsed an equality unforeseen. Not subservience, but partnership's shadow. The palace interlock pulsed steady, a fragile peaceholding, for now. Alara Voss raised her crown-bonded hand, the oath altar's crystalline facets igniting in synchronized rhythm with the palace's grand hall. Thousands of Homeric eyes, nobles, legionaries, and council envoys fixed upon her, the air thick with incense and the low thrum of ritual chants. By the Dominion's eternal weave, she intoned, voice carrying the weight of unyielding lineage, we bind this day to oath, and name Jonah Park, human attaché, guardian of our technical rights. Beside the altar, Jonah stood rigid in the fitted Homeric tunic, his pale skin stark against the obsidian robes. He inclined his head precisely, no flourish, just acknowledgement. Alara noted the council's murmurs ripple outward, Consul Reth's faction exchanging glances sharp as vibroblades. Embedding a human in Oath Day ritual was treaty-mandated theater, but necessity cloaked in pomp. The interlock's fragile pulse from chambers below demanded it. Relays faltered without his touch. The altar's core pulsed brighter, drawing essence from the crown bond to seal the year's pacts. Alara extended her palm toward the central node, feeling the familiar surge, until a discordant whine pierced the chants. Fractures spider-webbed across the crystal, energy arcing wildly. Gasps echoed. A lesser queen might have recoiled, but Alara held, her mind racing through protocols. Engineering Corps stood frozen at the periphery, their diagnostic wands unlit. Jonah moved first. Without command, he lunged to the altar's base panel, fingers flying over seals no Homeric hand had breached in ritual. Overload cascade, he muttered in crisp galactic standard, voice steady amid the rising panic. Alara's guards half drew blades, but she snapped her wrist. Halt. He pried the panel with a improvised shim from his belt, exposing flickering conduits. The whine peaked, Barks leaping toward her outstretched hand. In a blur, Jonah yanked a secondary stabilizer, non-standard, alien jury rig, wedging it crosswise while rerouting power through a tertiary vent. His other hand danced across a portable slate recalibrating flux in real time, eyes flicking between readouts and the fracturing core. Sweat beaded his brow, but his breath stayed even, multitasking the bypass as if charting a familiar map. The arcs stabilized. The whine softened to hum. Crystal mended. Seamless. Silence crashed over the hall. Alara lowered her hand, oath complete, pulse steady. Jonah stepped back, wiping his hands on his tunic, expression neutral, work done, no boast. Her engineering corps chief Vespera stared, mandibles agape, her wand finally igniting too late. Corpse, Elara commanded, voice slicing the hush. Catalog every adjustment the attaché made. Omission invites repetition. Vespera nodded jerkily, swarm drones deploying to scan the panel. Attaché Park, you will brief us in the antechamber post-right. Precision, if you please. Jonah bowed slightly. As the Queen wills. The ceremony flowed onward, packs sealed under the restored glow, but Elara's thoughts churned. Curiosity had drawn him close. This improvisation demanded scrutiny.
Humans endured their voids with such...
Reth's eyes bored into Jonah from the front ranks, promising thorns. Wright concluded. Elara swept into the council antechamber, robes whispering over polished stone. Jonah followed at protocol distance, flanked by her shadow guard. The chamber's vaulted arches framed holographic treaty projections, flickering with alliance clauses. She gestured to a low seat near the observation dais, not the floor cushions for petitioners, but elevated stone for observers. Sit, Attash. Witness statecraft. Your role embeds deeper now. He settled without comment, posture attentive, scanning the projections with that same quiet focus. Reth entered soon after, his conservative cadre trailing like a venomous tail. Majesty. Reth began, formal bow creaking his ornate carapace. The oath holds, yet whispers circulate. Lord Kalis's faction petitions, interspecies prohibitions, bar off-worlders from right-adjacent privilege, the humans' proximity risks weave taint. Elara turned crown bond humming faint warning against the chamber's flux veils. Hollow petitions materialized at Reth's cue, ancient edicts scrolling, Kalis's sigil bold, her arranged suitor's hand veiled in procedure. Kylie sought her lines thrown through marriage. Jonah's elevation threatened that calculus. Prohibitions serve stability, Reth pressed. Mandibles clicking softly, not spectacle. Strip his privileges, relegate to outer docks. Jonah remained still, gaze on the hollows, betraying no reaction. Elara felt the pull. Duty to lineage versus treaty's iron. Reth's faction swelled. Indulgence here eroded her absolute veil, yet Jonah's hands had just preserved the right.
She straightened, voice regal frost.
The treaty mandates his embedment. Without his intervention, Oath Day fractures and with it, our pacts. Lord Kylis's petition dissolves. Reth's frills flared subtly, surprise, calculation. Majesty, the weave. Guards.
Elara's tone brooked no fracture. 2 legionaries snapped. 2 vibro lances humming.
Enforce the attaché's presence. Any who bar him answers to crown bond. Reth bowed deeper, retreating with his cadre, but Elara caught the exchanged signals, plots coiling. Jonah met her glance briefly, a nod of thanks unspoken. Curiosity sharpened to something keener. His humility masked depths. What other cascades might he mend? In the antechamber's hush, Vespera arrived, drones humming data. Majesty, catalog complete. His bypass, improvised from relay schematics we deemed incompatible. Flux reroute via atmospheric vents, novel. Hemrick protocols lack such flexibility. Elara nodded, motioning Jonah forward. Brief us, Attash. How did you see the failure before it breached? Jonah rose smoothly, slate in hand. Pattern in the wine, Majesty. Harmonic shift matching yesterday's interlock pulse. Standard diagnostic misses it under ritual overload. I cross-checked with environmental feeds. Humans, we patch fields like this often. Keeps things running. Vespera leaned in, optics whirring. Fields? Your worlds lack weave nodes? Dirt and scrap? Jonah said simply. No pride. Teaches shortcuts. Elara watched Vespera absorb it, her core chief's doubt cracking into query. Reth's absence loomed, but here, in controlled elevation, alliance took root. Jonah's seat held, factions circled. The palace interlock steadied further below, but whispers promised storm. Post-brief as council proper convened beyond the dais, Elara permitted Jonah proximity, close enough to observe debates on fleet deployments, treaty tariffs. He listened, interjecting only when queried, his questions piercing. That relay cluster? Vulnerable to the same cascade? Reeth, re-entering for session, shot glares, but held tongue under her gaze. Kalis's petition echoed in sidelong talks. Envoys murmured of off-world taint. Yet when a hollow glitch marred tariff projections, minor but symbolic, Jonah's fingers twitched toward his slate unbidden. Elara quelled it with a glance. Protocol held. Still, Vespera cataloged his earlier feat obsessively, drones relaying to core archives. Impossible foresight, she confided later. We research your species now, Majesty. Endurance in voids, yes. But this. Alara permitted a thin smile, propriety firm. Scrutiny serves us both. Internally, the human's normalcy unsettled. His work ethic bridged gaps her engineers rote-bound. Duty forced proximity. Skill forged something tentative. As session peaked, Reth rose for objection, framed as query on human reliability. One mend does not weave eternity, Majesty.
Jonah shifted, but Alara preempted.
Nor does one petition unravel treaty. Proceed, Consul. The fragile peace pulsed onward. Jonah's role etched deeper into ritual and rite. Factions maneuvered. Her strength held the line. Yet in his steady gaze, partnership glimpsed, duty's veil thinning. Consul Reth's claws clicked sharply against the obsidian table, summoning the chamber's holographic seals into glowing lockdown. By the third edict of veil-bound oaths, I invoke closed inquiry into Jonah Park's origins and fealty, Your Majesty. The human's unchecked access risks the Dominion's veiled archives. Alara Voss sat enthroned at the chamber's apex, her crown bond pulsing faint azure against her iridescent carapace, a ritual tether to the Legion's theocratic core. She inclined her head fractionally, propriety's mask unyielding even as irritation flickered in her compound eyes. Reth's gambit was transparent, factional barbs dressed as protocol, probing the mandated alliance that bound her to this off-world technician. Proceed, Consul. But let the inquiry serve truth, not theater. The chamber hummed with restrained tension, lesser counselors shifting in their alcoves, antennae twitching. Reth projected Jonah's intake hollows, a human frame boarding the orbital shuttle, unremarkable in gray jumpsuit and tool harness, eyes steady under the scanners. Orphaned on a fringe colony. Field engineer for a neutral cartel, no priors, no allegiances beyond contract labor. Yet he interfaces our relays as if born to them. What hidden protocols does he carry? What loyalties to human enclaves plotting galactic fringes? Alara's mandibles parted slightly, tasting the air's acrid undercurrent of Reth's ambition. Jonah had proven adequate. More than his repairs had stabilized the fleet's outer pickets without fanfare, his explanations crisp, devoid of the bluster lesser species flaunted. But Reth's inquiry dredged doubts she had set aside for duty's sake. Summon the subject, let facts silence speculation. Word reached Jonah in the archive antechamber, where he knelt before a vault seal older than the Dominion's expansion wars. The summons glyph flickered on his wristpad, but he lingered, fingers tracing the lock's fractal engravings, chimeric script layered over pre-alliance tech, a puzzle of interlocking resonances. Palisades had denied him deeper access, citing propriety. But the fleet's nagging anomalies demanded more. Vulnerabilities whispered in the relay logs, microfractures in shield emitters, unpatched for cycles. He exhaled steadily, human lungs drawing calm from routine. No rush. Locks like this were just patterns waiting to align. Multitasking came naturally, left hand syncing that jury-rigged emitter from his harness to mimic the seal's harmonic pulse, right probing the engravings for wear points. Aliens engineered for precision, singular focus. Humans juggled chaos. A faint click rewarded him. The vault sighed open, exhaling musty data crystals. Inside, maintenance schematics glowed, fleet blueprints untouched since the last audit, revealing cascade failures in the ventral arrays, neglected blind spots that could cripple a squadron in open void. Jonah slotted a crystal into his pad, compressing the data with a custom algorithm he'd patched together from colony scrap code. Evidence, not theft. He resealed the vault flawlessly, just as armored aides arrived. The Queen summons, their lead intoned, voice flat with protocol. In the throne chamber, Alara watched Jonah enter, flanked by guards, his posture erect but unbowed. No deference beyond a nod. Human custom, respectful yet equal. Reth loomed forward. Technician Park, reveal your provenance. Why does a fringe repairman unravel our sacred systems? Jonah met the consul's gaze evenly. Pad proffered. Just doing the job, Consul. Patterns don't lie. Your relays were solid, but the schematics here. He tapped the device. Show mismatches. Official records lag reality. Reth's frills flared in disdain. Impossible. Archives are crown-bonded, immutable. Alara's bond from quickened, curiosity piercing formality. Present the divergence. Human. Jonah activated the hollow, his retrieved crystal overlaying official fleet manifests. Gaps bloomed, emitter alignments drifted 5% off true, unaddressed for 7 cycles, a vulnerability pirates could exploit in ambush. Counselors murmured, antenna quivering. Wreath's claws scraped stone. Fabrication. How did you breach the antechamber vault? Observe the harmonics, Jonah said simply. No boast. Wargroove suggested a bypass rhythm, matched it with an emitter pulse. Standard field trick. Alara leaned forward imperceptibly, her mind cataloging. Himeric locks demanded ritual attunement. Hours for adepts. This human, minutes. Dismissal cracked. Investigation beckoned. Archivists, she commanded, voice resonant through the chamber. Conduct comparative audit, cross-reference Park's crystal against crown vaults. Omission is treason to the fleet. The council dissolved in ordered haste, Reth's glare lingering like venom. Alara dismissed Jonah with a gesture, but her gaze held his a beat longer, steady, probing. Partnership's veil thinned further. By cycle's end, audit results flooded her private sanctum. Discrepancies confirmed. The human schematics pristine, official records corrupted by clerical rot, vulnerabilities glaring. Her bond pulsed approval, the Legion's theocratic weave humming a chord. Reth's inquiry had backfired, elevating the technician's feet. She summoned him again. Guards fewer this time. Chamber sealed for guarded audience. Jonah entered alone, tools at rest. Your Majesty. Explain your technique, Alara said, propriety formal but edged with genuine intrigue. No queen consulted inferiors thus, yet duty and curiosity demanded it.
The vault. Detail the bypass.
He crouched by her dais, sketching hollow fractals mid-air, voice patient. See the engravings? Layered epics. Bass resonance from your pre-alliance era, overlaid with modern wards. Human spot cross-domain echoes. Block harmonics match old shield emitters. I synced a portable one, pulsed the grooveware to slip the tumblers. Improvised, but reliable. She traced the projection with a claw, mandibles clicking softly in thought. Alien adepts memorized rights, this human connected disparate threads, adapting on the fly. And the schematics fidelity? Crystal was archival pure. Your clerks must have patched manifests post-audit, missing the drifts. Fleet's tough. Endurance like yours outlasts most, but those emitters? They'd fail under sustained fire. Optimism laced his tone. No arrogance, just fact. Alara felt the shift, from mandated ally to proven asset. Rare. A faint human smile.
Just work, ma'am. We all bring something.
Propriety cracked further in that shared beat, duty glimpsing mutual ground. Corridors later, Jonah strode toward auxiliary bays, pad-heavy with audit-verified data. Shadows stirred. Arrival agent, Reth's Shadowblade, cloaked in false livery, lunged from an alcove, stun grapple whipping for his neck. Fabricate an escape attempt, smear the alliance. Jonah twisted instinctively, combat engineer reflexes kicking in. No panic, resilience held. He dropped low, shoulder-checked the assailant into stone, multitasking a knee strike while yanking the grapple free. The agent snarled, blade flashing, Homeric edge-talks poisoned. Jonah rolled, improvising. Harness emitter overloaded into a stun burst. Buying seconds, he pinned the foe's arm, wrenching the blade away.
Who sent you?
Guards thundered in, alerted by proximity wards. The agent slumped, captured. Word raced to Alara amid her evening vigil. Crown Bond relaying palace feeds.
Ref's ploy, undisguised, fury tempered to resolve.
She summoned captains. Escort technician Park henceforth.
Honor guard detail, unyielding. And access? A captain ventured. Limited, supervised entry to defensive arrays. His patterns mend what ours have overlooked. By dawn, Jonah walked palace halls flanked by crimson-armored Himerics, their stances shifting from duty to wary regard.
One murmured, "Your dodge, fluid."
Like Legion blade dance, but unbound.
Jonah nodded.
Teamwork's the real edge, Alara observed from a balcony overlook, unseen. The schematics' truths forced reckoning. A human's quiet competence rivaled Crown archives. Vulnerabilities laid bare. Factions schemed, but her line held, strengthened, perhaps by this unforeseen equal. Duty's veil thinned to alliance's promise. Alara Voss descended the tribunal's obsidian steps, her crown bond pulsing with the chamber's resonant hum, as the High Tribune's voice cracked through the vaulted air. Sovereign Alara, by ancient writ of the First Concord, you are summoned to adjudicate Statute Epsilon 7. No Homeric sovereign shall forge intimate or political union with non-Homeric flesh, lest the dominion's purity fracture. The assembled counselors, cloaked in ritual silks, their crest feathers quivering, leaned forward, eyes fixed on her with the hunger of predators scenting weakness. She halted at the dais' edge, her gaze sweeping the ranks where Consul Reth sat preeminent, his mandibles clicking in feigned neutrality. The statute, dormant for centuries, now weaponized against her alliance with the human. Duty demanded adjudication. Politics, survival. Proceed, she commanded, her voice a silken blade, seating herself upon the throne of fused crystal. Whispers rippled, her poise unbroken, yet the air thickened with unspoken accusations. Far below the palace spires in the shadowed labyrinth of the tribunal vaults, Jonah Park crouched amid flickering hollow screens, his breath steady as he synced the scout's neural links. Flank left on my mark, 3 breaths, then converge. Their entry vectors a feint. Real breach is sub-level 9. Thermal signatures confirm it. The 4 Hemeric scouts, elite shadows with iridescent scales and blade-tipped tails exchanged glances, their bioluminescent vents pulsing doubt. Humans fatigued after cycles of vigilance, this one had orchestrated relays through solar storms without pause. Kalis, the lead scout, scarred from border skirmishes, loyal to the crown but wary of off-worlders, tilted his head frills. Technician Park, your scans predict their pivot. How? Our augments detect only echoes. Jonah tapped the jury-rigged scanner, a hybrid of human field mods and Hemeric crystal arrays, its glow illuminating his calm features. Pattern bleed vibration harmonics from their boots don't match the decoy drones. Juggle the feeds, audio overlay with seismic. He demonstrated, fingers dancing across 3 interfaces at once, isolating the saboteur's true path amid false trails. The scout's vents flared brighter, such multitasking eluded their rigid neural hierarchies. Mark, Jonah murmured. They surged as one Kalis's team melting into vents, Jonah trailing with improvised EMP nodes. The intruders, cloaked in factional sigils half obscured, triggered the vault wards. Jonah multitasked, directing flanks via whisper link while priming nodes, his mind threading alien syntax with human improv. A saboteur lunged. Kalis parried, but Jonah anticipated the feint, hurling a node that shorted the assailant's shield. In a blue crackle, they nutted 3 before the rest scattered, evidentiary slates clutched like trophies, records of the statute's invocation, laced with falsified proofs of royal corruption. Kalis hauled a captive forward, vents heaving respect. No Hemeric seer matches this adaptability. Jonah wiped sweat, grinning faintly. Just connecting dots, your vents give away stress patterns, helped narrow it. Pack bonds formed in the crush, a shared nod, a scout clasping his shoulder. They secured the vault, slates revealing Reth's conservative block's hand, plots to inflame the statute, destabilize her rule. Dawn's light pierced the tribunal as couriers delivered the breach report to Alara's throne. She scanned the hollows mid-agitation, her crest stiffening. Saboteurs bearing Reth's ciphered seals intercepted by the humans' coordination. Jonah's schematics from nights prior had mapped the vault's blind spots. Now his fieldwork exposed the rot. Factions unraveled before her, conservatives not just opposing the alliance but undermining the crown itself. Enforcement of Epsilon 7? It would fracture what the human preserved. Her calculations shifted, the statute a tool, not a chain. Strength lay in wielding it, not yielding. The chamber doors groaned open. Jonah entered, summoned as witness, his technician's garb dust-streaked from the vaults. Murmurs swelled, breath rose, mandibles splaying. The non-Hemeric stands accused. Statute demands his sequestration. No union pollutes the line. Guards advanced, energy lances humming, their crests flared in ritual zeal. Alara rose like a gathering storm, interposing her form between them and Jonah. The air stilled. Stand down, she intoned, crown bond flaring to eclipse the lance's glow. By sovereign privilege of the Second Edict, I invoke protection upon this attaché. His service thwarts conspiracy. Arrest fractures Dominion security. Reth recoiled, frills blanching, public defiance from the throne. Her formality cracking to reveal iron resolve. Jonah met her gaze briefly, a flicker of shared understanding amid the tension. Not subservience, partnership. The council erupted, shouts, crest flares. But Reth's eyes narrowed, signaling unseen hands. A crystal chandelier above shuddered, then detonated in a cascade of shards laced with plasma charges. Assassin's work, microdrones swarming from the wreckage, vectors locked on the dais, imperiling sovereign and human in one strike. Shrapnel rained. Alara shoved Jonah aside as a drone streaked past, scorching her silks. He rolled, drawing a compact field tool, reconfigured in seconds to emit a disruption pulse, scattering the swarm mid-air. Guards faltered, their protocols rigid against such improvisation. Chaos reigned. Counselors scrambling, vents blasting panic pheromones. Alara seized the moment, her voice booming over the din.
Evacuate the tribunal.
All protocols suspended. Epsilon 7 held in abeyance until conspiracy purge is complete. She gripped Jonah's arm, pulling him toward the secure arch as drones regrouped. Reth vanished in the throng, his absence damning. Scouts from the vaults burst in. Kalis bellowing orders, their loyalty now forged in cross-species fire. They sealed the arch behind the last evacuee, the chamber's outer seals clamping with a thunderous grind. Alara leaned against the cool wall, breath measured, crown bond steady. Jonah checked his scanner, confirming drone neutralization. They're routed. Vault records intact. Your call saved the proceedings. His tone held no boast, just quiet competence. She studied him, the human who turned shadows to allies, exposing fractures she could now mend. Your vigilance complements the Crown Park. Faction scheme, but we hold. Propriety thinned further, a nod of equals, duty evolving to alliance. Outside, the Dominion stirred, ancient law bent, conspiracy checked. Yet Reth's web lingered, demanding they choose, destroy the bond or forge it unbreakable. Kalis approached, thence glowing admiration. Sovereign, the technician. He bonded our hunt as kin. Humans endure what we ration, their minds weave chaos to order. Alara's crest eased fractionally. Noted, scout. Research their kind, discreetly. The galaxy underestimates at peril. Hope anchored her, this unforeseen equal strengthened her line, politics yielding to possibility. Alara's crown bond pulsed with the shrill alert of incursion, holographic starfields shattering into crimson fractures across the war chamber's vault. Corsil vanguard through the veil gap, barked Admiral Kalis, her vents flaring hot as she slammed a gauntleted fist onto the tactical nexus. They've armed the dissident clans. Anti-human agitators now fly Empire-marked corvettes. Political whispers turned to plasma fire. Alara's crest locked rigid, her voice a blade of command amid the clamor. Seal the palace relays, mobilize 3rd Legion to the breach, and summon the human, Jonah Park. His hands on our grids may yet turn this blade. Consul Reth's silhouette stiffened in the chamber's shadowed alcove, his multifaceted eyes glinting with veiled calculation. Sovereign, elevating a liaison to crisis command risks further fracture. The clans decry him as omen of dilution.
Fracture is upon us, Consul. Alara cut in, her gaze pinning him like a lance.
Operational necessity supersedes court decorum. Internally, a flicker of anticipation stirred. Jonah's quiet competence had already woven subtle strengths into her defenses, a human thread binding fraying loyalties. Jonah arrived at a measured stride, toolkit slung low, his plain tunic unmarked by the chamber's gilded heraldry. He scanned the projections without pause, fingers dancing over a portable slate linked to the palace's orbital relay. Your veil gap's a choke point, core cells pushing drone swarms tuned to your standard frequencies. I can reconfigure the relay array on site, phase shift the emissions to scatter their locks. It'll degrade targeting by 30%, minimum.
Eyes us breathing room without full shutdown.
Kalis's vents hissed skepticism, her mandibles clicking. Field reconfiguration? Our engineers require sanctum bays and right seals for such. Won't need them, Jonah replied evenly, already kneeling at the Nexus pedestal prying open access grate with a multi-tool that hummed alien to their sleek probes. Humans improvise. Pull these modulators offline, crosswire to the auxiliary vents, reroutes the signal like a decoy flock. His hands moved with unhurried precision, multitasking diagnostics on his slate while verbally charting overrides for the attending techs. Sweat beaded his brow after hours without respite, yet his focus held, connecting relay harmonics to Corsil drone patterns in ways their rote protocols overlooked. Alara watched, crest subtly easing as the first test pulse flickered live. Corsil icons on the holofield wavered, their precision strikes veering into void space. Cheers rippled from the techs, Kalis's eyes widening in rare astonishment. Impossible. He wove chaos into shield without fatigue protocols or augmentation. Reth's voice sliced through, oily with propriety. A pause, sovereign, not victory. The Council's ancient edict binds us to purity. Human tinkering invites Corsil's myth of our weakness. Alara turned from the stabilizing grid, her tone brooking no dissent. Convene tactical reviews at once. Include the human's proposals verbatim. His input proves operationally relevant, nay, decisive, to our defense. She signaled Jonah to rise, noting the faint tremor in his hands masked by steady breath. Endurance, unboasted, where Hamari would cycle shifts. The battle balcony overlooked the Dominion's heart spire, a vast crescent of armored glass framing the orbital dance now laced with enemy glints. Alara strode to the command dais, gesturing Jonah to the station at her right. a placement heavy with symbolism, visible to every Legion feed. Reth shadowed them, his faction's whispers buzzing through private channels, but she ignored the chill, her focus on the human beside her. "Projections, Admiral," she commanded as aides arrayed data veils. Jonah leaned in, pointing seamlessly. "Their swarms cluster on pattern, predictable if you layer your counterfire with my relay ghosting. Hit the flanks first, it'll funnel them into your interceptors." Kalis nodded, vent cycling admiration. "Your pattern sight. Hamari seers train cycles for such lengths." "Yet you grasp it raw," Reth interjected smoothly. "Sovereign protocol reserves Strategos flanks for anointed blood. Protocol bends to survival, Consul," Aelara replied, her voice formal, ice cracking toward steel. Jonah's presence grounded her, his humility a quiet counter to Reth's barbs, a partnership politics could no longer deny. As the reviews solidified into orders, Legion squadrons surged, Corsil probes faltering under the improvised veil. Then, rupture. Internal alarms wailed as palace corridors lit with muzzle flares.
"Coup elements breaching East Wing."
Kalis snarled, hollows snapping to grainy feeds. Reth's conservative allies armored in antiquated right plate swarming toward the technician bays. "They seize the human for leverage, demand your abdication, nullify the alliance." Aelara's crown bond thrummed fury, but her crest held regal poise. Jonah tensed beside her, slate clutched like a shield, yet he met her gaze with calm resolve. "They'll use me to fracture your line. Your call. Not while I draw throne breath." She activated her personal Legion link, voice broadcasting to all loyal channels. "All units, precision strike on East Wing insurgents. I command personally, detain leaders, extract the human intact. This is no fracture, it is consolidation." Reth recoiled, multifaceted eyes fracturing light in shock. "Sovereign, you cannot, I can, and I will." Aelara swept from the balcony, Jonah at her flank by unspoken accord, as her guard vanguard coalesced around them. They plunged into the fray via grav lifts, corridors echoing with plasma cracks and the whine of right blades. Coup fighters, clad in faction sigils, faces twisted by zeal, barricaded the tech vaults, Jonah's name chanted as talisman of downfall. "Suppressors left, blades right," Aelara barked, her crown-enhanced reflexes guiding a micropulse from her scepter that shattered a barricade. Jonah multitasked flawlessly, hacking a nearby panel to vent knockout gas while relaying targeting data to her guards via his slate. "Two tangos at junction. Your right shields cover the blind spot." Kalis's squad breached from flanks, her vents roaring triumph as they cuffed the ringleaders, Reth's lieutenants, their alibis crumbling under live feeds. One insurgent lunged for Jonah, blade high. Aelara interposed, scepter humming a stasis field that dropped him limp. Jonah nodded thanks, no bravado, just shared rhythm in the chaos. As restraints clicked on the last, Aelara faced the hollow-captured Reth, now isolated in council chambers. "Your factions gambled on foreign guns and internal knives, Consul. The human stands, not as dilution but as pivot, the Legion witnesses." Reth's form bowed fractionally, calculation yielding to necessity. "The edicts, adapt, Sovereign." Kalis approached amid the settling vents, her gaze on Jonah lingering with newfound deference. "Technician, your weave held the siege's throat. Humans, we ration strikes, you endure the weave entire." Jonah shrugged humbly. "Just work. Your precision made it stick." Alara's crest eased fully, hope solidifying into certainty. Jonah's skills, innovation born of crisis, resilience unyielding, had not merely paused the threat, they forged her authority anew, politics bowing to partnership. The Dominion's fractures sealed, at least for now, by an equal's hand, yet whispers from the veil gap lingered. Corsil's true thrust awaited, testing this bond further. Consul Reth's voice sliced through the vaulted chamber like a vibroblade, his crest flared in rigid spikes. "The veil gap hemorrhages, Majesty. Corsil's fleets mass beyond our sensors, and your indulgence with this human delays the irrevocable decree our laws demand. The Council will not abide fracture. Resolve the controversy now, or we invoke the ancient veto." Aelara stood unmoving at the throne's apex, her crown bond pulsing faint azure against her temples, the weight of 1,000 ancestral gazes pressing from the holographic friezes. Foreign edicts from the concordance hammered her comms, treaty bonds unbreakable without human integration, while domestic murmurs swelled from the underhalls, factions sharpening their barbs. She met Reth's glare, her own crest steady, unyielding. "The controversy ends today, Consul. Summon the full court. We proclaim resolution." Beside her, Jonah Park shifted subtly, his human frame unadorned by finery, eyes scanning the data veils with that quiet intensity she had come to rely on. He had spent the night weaving threads she scarcely followed. Legal codices cross-referenced with orbital relay diagnostics, technical proofs etched in irrefutable code. No boast, no fatigue in his posture, just the steady tap of fingers finalizing the holoprojection now hovering at her elbow. As the chamber filled, Alara felt the air thicken with anticipation. The council's conservative bloc clustering like storm clouds. Wreath's allies whispered, their tails lashing in sync. She raised a hand, silencing the rustle. Homeric sovereignty endures not by isolation, but adaptation. Behold the evidence of our necessity. Jonah activated the projection with a nod from her, his voice calm, precise. Your Majesties, counselors, the treaty's core relays, fused human Homeric at my predecessor's behest, now underpin 87% of our defensive lattice. Sever the human protocols, and cascade failures trigger within cycles. Veil gap shields drop 30%. Core-cell probes pierce unmonitored. The veil bloomed with schematics, twisting vines of code where Homeric rigidity met human improvisation, patterns linking legal clauses to power flows. He had multitasked it all, decrypting alien precedents while recalibrating live feeds, spotting vulnerabilities no pure Homeric mind had linked across domains. Gasps rippled. A counselor leaned forward, mandibles clicking. Impossible. Our engineers certified those systems rote. Certified, yes, Jonah replied evenly. No trace of superiority, but the integrations evolved under crisis. Human redundancy layered in without full documentation. Here's the proof. Simulate severance. The model fractured in simulation, red warnings blooming like blood flowers. Reth's crest twitched, his eyes narrowing as he cross-referenced his own slate, amazement flickering behind the scowl. Alara seized the moment, her voice resonant, cracking the formal shell just enough to reveal steel beneath. Sovereignty reframed. The crown chooses equals to fortify the line. Jonah Park, human liaison, has illuminated this truth, not as servant, but partner. I prepare the instruments of bond, co-counsel decree, consort alliance, woven into the crown code itself. The chamber erupted in murmurs, but she pressed on, signaling attendance. Parchments unfurled, ancient vellum etched with fresh runes, her bond authorizing the script in glowing script. Jonah stood silent, respectful, yet his presence anchored her. She glimpsed his subtle glance, a shared optimism grounding the pageantry. Hours blurred into preparation, Alara's private sanctum a hive of quiet urgency. Jonah reviewed the final seals beside her, his endurance unflagging after days without pause. The legal hooks tie treaty survival to our partnership, he said softly, fingers tracing a clause. They can't unravel one without the other. She nodded, a rare warmth easing her formality. You see connections we ritualize into blindness, yet I wonder, does your kind bond so swiftly across voids? His smile was humble, eyes crinkling. We adapt and learn. Your legion's precision in fleet maneuvers? That's a masterclass I'd study lifetimes. Their exchange bridged the chamber's chill as the great doors ground open for proclamation. The full court assembled in the Eclipse Hall, crystal spires channeling starlight into blinding lances. Alara ascended the dais, Jonah at her right, formal now, attired in hybrid robes blending human simplicity with Homeric weave. Reth loomed central among conservatives, his faction's crests aggressively flared. Hear the crown, Alara intoned, crown bond flaring brilliant. Under concordance mandate and domestic accord, I present Jonah Park as chosen partner in council and bond. His integrations safeguard our realm. Together, we formalize alliance. The court recognizes. Reth surged forward, slamming his seal staff. Treason to tradition. The human taints purity, invoke deposition right. Allies, seize the offworlder. Chaos ignited. Conservative guards lunged, tails whipping, energy lances humming. Wreath's block chanted ancient vetoes, hollows projecting fabricated scandals. Jonah's intrusions twisted into subversion. A lance grazed the dais. Alara's guards clashed, blades singing. Jonah moved without hesitation, adaptability honed in forgotten fields. He yanked a relay panel mid-stride, improvising from the very systems he'd mapped, rerouting power to flood the hall's inhibitors. Conservative weapons sputtered. Dead. Shields hold, he barked to her detail, multitasking, directing Homeric flanks via wrist trap, flankers circling from shadowed vaults. Alara's heart surged, not fear, but fierce pride. She activated her crown bond fully. Azure storm cascading.
Stand down. Crown authority binds this hall.
Her voice boomed, amplified, freezing the fray. Reth halted, encircled, his crest wilting as Jonah's jury-rigged field pinned his guards' lances inert. You dare assault the throne? Alara descended, regal fury laced with mercy. Jonah flanked her, resilient calm radiating, psychological anchor amid the storm. She faced Reth, voice intimate yet iron. Your loyalty to old ways blinds you to survival. But the crown pardons, for the Dominion needs all strengths. Reth's mandibles trembled, eyes darting to the projections, still hovering. Undeniable proofs of Jonah's worth. He unravels us without effort. How? Collaboration, Jonah said simply. Deactivating the field. Your rituals give structure, we add flexibility. Together, unbreakable. The court stilled, amazement dawning. A neutral counselor stepped forth, crest softening. The evidence, Dr. Reprieve. Majesty, we recognize. Alara turned to Jonah, the weight of eyes upon them. Jonah Park, I accept you as consort and co-counsel.
Bind with me.
She extended her hand. He clasped it, firm, equal. The crown bond leaped, fusing their biometrics in a shared pulse. Legal instruments sealing into law, treaty fortified, dissent pardoned under amnesty clause. Cheers erupted, tentative then thunderous. Reth bowed, defeated yet alive, his faction folding as hollows broadcast the Union galaxy-wide. Alara felt the fractures mend, Jonah's hand warm in hers. Human endurance, creativity, quiet bond sealing what politics alone could not. Yet as the hall quieted, a priority ping pierced her comms, veil gap anomaly spiking. Corsil's shadow loomed larger. She met Jonah's gaze, certainty deepened. She was born to rule, and learned that true power is finding an